Um, when I was a kid, I think the first job that I remember wanting was to be a vet so that I could work with animals. But then I thought about it a lot, and then I realized that I would be around a lot of sick animals, and that made me really sad. So then I didn't want to do that anymore. Um, yeah, I think that's the first one I remember. And then the second one was to be an actor in movies. Because I think I just wanted to be famous, which is silly, but yeah. Um, oh, I wanted to be a singer too, but I can't sing that well, so that was just like a dream. But that's all I really remember. I knew I wanted to go into like film and stuff like that, which have done. So I guess I kind of am doing what I wanted to do when I was younger. Okay, this is really, really like complicated, but my dad basically is a businessman. I think that's the best way of describing it, even though it's very, very vague. So he does a lot of imports and exports, works with a lot of overseas companies in developing different products, technological products. And then within my country, in South Africa, he works mostly with like electrical, I don't want to say electrical appliances, like, yeah, kind of like he works with electrical appliances and distributing them to different companies and stuff like that. But I'd say the biggest thing is he's a businessman because he does lots of different things here and there. So it's kind of hard to say one specific thing that he does, which I think is kind of cool. My dad is... Everyone's really scared of my dad when they first meet him because he seems really, really serious and really like quiet and stuff, kind of like me. But then once you get to know him, he's like one of the sweetest people in the whole world. My dad is probably one of the kindest people that I know. He works a lot with charity, the church, different ministries, stuff like that. He's incredibly hardworking. He grew up in Colombia and didn't come from a very wealthy household and came to South Africa and ended up doing very well for himself, kind of like as an entrepreneur. So he's very hardworking and doesn't take no for an answer in the sense that he's always optimistic and is constantly pushing to be better than he is. And he's pretty great already, so. Okay, well, this isn't necessarily something we have in common, but something that my dad and I enjoy doing a lot, or enjoyed doing when I was younger was I would go to a lot of poetry festivals and acting festivals, and I would be in a lot of shows like musicals and stuff like that. And my dad always loved to come with me. He was always like my number one supporter in my poetry and my writing and stuff like that. So even though he doesn't necessarily write, he loves talking to me about my writing and loves like workshopping things with me. So I guess like being creative is kind of something that comes, is something that relates me to my dad. And then probably like he's a perfectionist, and I think that's something we definitely share because I want everything to be perfect and meticulous, and he taught me that from a really, really young age to want everything to be the best that it can be. And also my dad is always late, and I'm always late, so that's definitely something that we share. I would definitely say that my dad's work ethic is something that inspires me all the time. I am not as brave as my dad is. I'm not as dedicated as he is. I'm definitely a lot more scared of the world than he is, but he taught me that fear is irrational and fear should not control you. I've never really seen my dad scared of anything, besides, losing his family and all those things. But his bravery is something that definitely inspires me and inspires my work. Like I was saying earlier, my dad doesn't take no for an answer, and that is something that is kind of reflected on a lot of my work, because when I would show him some things, I would tell him about all of my doubts, and I would tell him about just how I was stuck and all of those things, and he would just tell me to keep pushing forward, and that everything that I want to say is already inside me, so I just need to keep digging and keep finding what it is that I want to say. So he inspires me to, I guess, never quit when I'm feeling really stuck in my work. So when my dad gets really, really serious, and I can tell he's thinking about something really, really deep, then his eyes go like super closed like this, and he's like, I can tell he's like really, really deep in thought, and then a lot of people think he like looks really, really angry, or he's like looking really sarcastic when he's really just thinking.
How do you feel about graduating?
Terrified, completely terrified. But at the same time, I am really excited to graduate, because I feel like it's time for me to move on from this point in my life, because I've been studying for, I want to say 5 years now, which isn't a lot, but 5 in a row is kind of gets very intense. So I feel like I'm ready to move forward with my life, so I'm excited, but I'm also scared because I don't know what's going to happen after graduation. I have a lot of plans, but I don't know if they're all going to happen the way I want them to.
Okay. What are your plans?
I want to hopefully move to Southern California, and I've been sending out my resume for a lot of internships on music video sets, which is really exciting for me because music videos are the reason I came to SFAI. So coming in with music videos and then having plans to go continue making music videos is really exciting. And I also have been applying at music labels and production companies, but mostly just internships at this point, most of my plans. My dad is probably very proud of me that I'm graduating, but I know that he is very sad that we are apart. He lives in South Africa, I live here in America, obviously. And I know that that is a strain on not only my dad, but my whole family. They want me to do well, they want me to succeed and do what I want to do, but I know that it's hard for them to have this distance. But I'd say he's proud. He tells me he's proud of me all the time, so I'd say proud. I feel completely responsible for my family because they have given me so much, and I'm 23 years old, turning 24, and I still feel like I'm completely on my parents' shoulders. I've had jobs throughout my, once I had left high school, I'd had jobs all around, but I always felt like without them I would never be able to do any of this. So I feel completely responsible for them, and I feel like if I could give them a fraction of what they had given me, then, it still wouldn't be enough, but it would be something. Because they believe in me so much, they don't ever doubt me, even though I always doubt myself, so I truly feel responsible for them. So I just applied for my OPT. I haven't heard anything back yet. So hopefully if that works out, that should be good. I guess I'm kind of just trying to be optimistic about it because I went through the visa process before applying for the school's visa, and that all worked out, so I'm trying to just be positive about that. But it is really a difficult process. and now I have to wait for 3 months to even find out if I get my OPT, and that's really stressful. And also I don't know why it takes so long, because I've already gotten a message saying that they've received my application. So I don't know why it's going to take another 3 months, but yeah.
So you're not planning to go back home to South Africa?
I'm planning on visiting home after graduation, but I don't think I would ever want to move back there permanently, because in terms of like production companies and film companies, there aren't that many opportunities back home. There are, but it's kind of like on a very small level. It's not really on an international level. So I feel like in order for me to do the things I want to do, I would need to be in somewhere. I have to be somewhere like America. I would have to work like that. I think the most important thing that I've taken from SFAI, or something that it has taught me that I will take with me, is that everybody's process is different and everybody's art is different. I know that sounds really, really obvious, but I say that because I used to compare my art to everybody else's for so long, and I felt that I was making art for other people because I wanted other people to enjoy it. And in doing that, I wasn't enjoying any of my own art at all, and I felt disconnected to my own art practice. So I only really learned this last semester, where I'd reached this point where I just hated everything that I was doing, and I didn't feel like I was being a true artist, or I wasn't being myself. And I reached this point where I had to decide if I was going to make art for other people, or if I was going to make it for myself. And once I decided to do it for myself, I really started to enjoy it more. People in my critiques started liking, that's a problematic word, but were not relating to my art as much. People were had a lot more negative things to say about it, but I felt more positive about it. So I think, summarizing all of this, I've learned to put my own opinion not above everyone else's, but at the same level as everybody else's, and really learned that you have to make art for yourself in order for it to be truthful. Otherwise, it's just going to be the art we've been seeing for so long, and it's time that that art started to change. So, yeah. I think that the role of art for me can be summarized into 2 different categories. So the first one would be art that I make for me. So I guess it would be an expression of things that I feel like I can't say in words, or things that I am struggling with internally. So I guess art would be a way for me to understand myself when I'm feeling confused about what's going on in my mind. But then in another way, I feel like art from other people, it's also including myself, but I feel like art that I want to see is art that makes me change the way I see things about the world and says something other than just purely being aesthetic. I feel like art these days that isn't based in a conceptual framework is kind of lacking, at least for me personally. So I feel like it should definitely say something that makes me sit up and listen. And then I guess if I were to throw in a third one, probably also escapism sometimes, which kind of contradicts what I said before, but escapism in art can be really important for a lot of people too. So that's a third one. I would describe my dad as somebody who doesn't always understand where my desire to make art comes from, or he doesn't always understand some of the problems that I'm trying to deal with, but he is definitely somebody that is always open to trying to understand new things. My dad doesn't know as much about my artistic practice the way it is right now, but during my undergrad I was involved in a lot of film and a lot of theatre, and my dad really enjoyed all of that. He was always behind me. He's always been behind me since I was young with my poetry and my writing. But right now, the few art pieces that he has been lucky enough to see from me, I can tell he didn't understand but was really excited to try and understand something new. So even though my dad isn't completely immersed in the art world right now, I feel like it would really excite him, and he's coming to vernissage, and he is really, really excited, and I think he's gonna have a lot to say, and he's gonna enjoy it. Yeah. One of the most important things in my life is probably my mental stability and the mental stability of people around me. And that wasn't necessarily a choice of mine. My own self-awareness of what goes on in my head has kind of been something that has taken over my life with regards to my mental health. And so for me, being consistent as a person is something that I think is really important to me, and something that I find really difficult to do. I find it really difficult to keep my emotions kind of on one level throughout the day. So I guess keeping calm and being stable is something that's incredibly important to me, because it's something that I really feel like I don't have control over. And then that also goes into the people that are around me. I want to be a voice for people that feel like this topic is kind of glazed over, which I feel like it is. And I want to shed light on this topic of mental stability, because I feel like it's something that's never addressed. I'm repeating myself a lot now. And then also, my family is really important to me, my friends are really important to me. All the things that should be really important to a person. But also my own happiness is probably really important to me, too. Yeah. So, my dream since I was really young was to be involved with music and to be involved with video. Maybe it wasn't even a dream necessarily, but just a passion that I've always had. And so if 10 years from now I'm still working with music, I feel like I would be successful. And if music still makes me as happy as it does right now, then that would be a huge success for me. This is going to be really cheesy, but if I'm still with my partner in 10 years, that would also be truly successful for me. And I guess if I was financially stable, that would... I know that doesn't sound like a dream, that just sounds like more like something that we all hope for, or even a fear. But if I'm financially stable on my own, that I would be really happy and feel really successful. And then also if that could translate to my family and me keeping my family financially stable, that would also be really successful in my eyes.